TikTok video with thousands of views, thousands of likes. The atheists love this. And I want to show this because it's actually a good argument that an atheist can use against certain arguments that come from Christians. Let's check it out.
It always makes me chuckle when I hear Christians tell non-Christians that the reason why God doesn't show himself to us is because if he did show himself, we would be forced to believe it. And that like takes away our free will to believe.
Yeah, this is an awful argument. I hate it. I cringe every time I hear it. It's very popular, actually. For some context, if you're not sure, there's a common argument that says that God is too hidden from us, or there's not enough evidence for God, and if God were real, he would make it obvious to everyone, and everyone would know that he exists. And so that's something that a lot of atheists say. And a common counter to that is that God is hidden. He doesn't want to show everyone and prove to everyone that he is real, because that would overpower our free will. It would be too obvious, and so you wouldn't love God and worship him out of love, but out of fear. And so God doesn't want that. He wants true, genuine free will creatures to believe in him out of their own free will. That's the argument, basically. And what do I say? I just have to say that's a stupid argument. I hate it. It's trash, mainly because it's just not found in the Bible. Jesus never gave this argument. The Apostle Paul never gave this argument, and it even contradicts the Bible. Let's continue, though.
And it makes me laugh because it's funny for you to assume that if God appeared in front of me, that I would automatically just start believing and worshiping.
So I'm going to pause it right there. We don't need to watch the rest of this because she has a terrible potty mouth. And by the way, she did block me on TikTok. But this is key. Yes, the assumption on the part of the Christians who make that counter argument is that, oh, you would believe if God proved himself to you. But that's just not true. She goes on to say in her video and the rest of her videos that she hates God. She wouldn't believe even if he proved himself to her. And I just have to say that this is a good argument. This is true. She would not believe if someone rose from the dead in front of her very eyes. She wouldn't believe if some undeniable miracle happened in front of her very eyes. Luke chapter 16 verse 31 says, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be persuaded even if someone rises from the dead." Look, in Jesus's day, if someone's not listening to Moses and the prophets, the miraculous witness of God of the Old Testament, they're not going to be persuaded even if someone rises from the dead. The same thing is true for us today. But we have the New Testament as well. We have the words of Jesus, the Son of God. We have the Apostle Paul, James, Jude, John. If this woman doesn't listen to the words of Jesus, the Apostle Paul, the prophets, even in the Old Testament, she's not going to be persuaded if someone rises from the dead. Let's say she has a dead loved one, and let's say that dead loved one rises from the dead and starts preaching the gospel to her. It's not going to make any difference. That's not the problem that she has with God. The problem that she has with God is that she hates God. It's a heart issue, not an evidence issue. In John chapter 7, Jesus spoke of his brothers that didn't believe in him. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I didn't prove myself to the world. That's why they don't believe in me. Nope, that's not it. The world hates Jesus because Jesus bears witness about it that its deeds are evil. The reason why that woman hates Jesus, hates God, is because God testifies about her that her deeds are evil. The reason why atheists hate God and pretend that God doesn't exist is because their deeds are evil, and God testifies about that. Romans chapter 1, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them." This woman that I just reacted to, God has made himself evident within her. Yes, I'm making this personal. God made it evident to her. Every human being on the planet, God is evident within them. They don't even have to look outside of themselves to know that God exists. This point here about suppressing the truth in unrighteousness, is that what she's doing, or does she not have the truth and she's ignorant? She doesn't know that God exists. There's not enough evidence for her, or God's too hidden. Is that what the scripture says? No, God is revealed. The wrath of God even is revealed. "For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, both his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, so that they are without excuse." So since the creation of the world, God's eternal power, divine nature have been clearly seen. You look up at the stars in the sky, the sun sets. the beauty, the inherent objective beauty in what you're seeing, everybody knows. Everybody knows that something doesn't come from nothing. The universe didn't just pop into existence. This is something we all inherently know. For even though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or give thanks, but they became futile in their thoughts, and their foolish heart was darkened. This is one verse that I don't think the average Christian today that I come into contact with actually believes this verse. Do we believe that the atheists out there, the Hindus, the Muslims out there of the world, do we believe that they know the true God? Me personally, I have to believe this verse. I believe that that woman that I just reacted to knows God. She knows that he exists, and she understands that he exists, that his divine nature and his eternal power has been revealed. She knows this, and she's refusing to give God thanks. She is suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. It's because of her wicked heart that she suppresses that truth. She walks out of the house complaining about all the evil in the world, proving to everyone that she has an inherent sense of right and wrong within her, proving that she knows God, and yet you ask her about it, she'll deny God 100%. The last part of this chapter, Paul lists a bunch of evil things: boastful people, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, haters of God, violent, arrogant. Verse 32, although they know the righteous requirement of God, that those who practice such things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but also give hearty approval to those who practice them. What do we get from this chapter? We get that every non-believer knows God, knows of his divine nature and eternal power. They know that he's good. They know the righteous requirements of God. They know that they are destined for death. They are worthy of death. They deserve to die for all of their sins. These are things that non-believers know about God. And so they are without excuse. You know, when the atheist says, oh, God's too hidden, and then the Christian says, yeah, you're right, but he does so because he doesn't want to overpower your free will. You're telling them that they actually have an excuse to not believe in God because there's not enough evidence. But the fact is, they do have the evidence. It's just they are evil. They hate the evidence. They hate God. And every Christian, I think, inherently knows this. That's not the issue. The issue is that you loved your sin prior to your conversion. That's the main reason why you didn't want to believe in Jesus. There are things that God told you not to do that you love to do, therefore you don't want to submit to God. It's as simple as that. And you hate that God calls you out on that and calls you to change. And it's so fascinating. It also comes off as extremely arrogant if you give that crazy argument of, oh, he doesn't want to overpower your free will. Oh, so he didn't need to overpower your free will, apparently? Like, oh, these people are too stupid to get the gospel until they get some miracle. God reveals himself in a greater way to them. Oh, but you didn't need that. Us Christians here, we're just so much better than them. We understood the gospel by it being preached to us. Oh, but them, they need something extra. They need more revelation. That's not it at all. And by the way, Acts chapter 9, there was a man who was just walking to Damascus as any normal man would. And as he was traveling, it happened that when he was approaching Damascus, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him, and falling to the ground, he heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, but rise up and enter the city, and it will be told you what you must do. And the men who traveled with him stood speechless, hearing the voice but seeing no one. And Saul got up from the ground, and though his eyes were open, he could see nothing. Leading him by the hand, they brought him to Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither ate nor drank. Did God overpower Paul's free will here? Huh? Did Paul get more revelation from God than many other people throughout history? I would say yes, of course. Paul didn't ask for this. Paul didn't ask for greater revelation than anyone else. Paul did not ask to become the apostle to the Gentiles. No, Jesus said that Paul is a chosen instrument of mine to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel. For I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. The Paul was chosen by Jesus, not the other way around. Once again, I've made this type of video before, and I've explained that before, that it is Paul who was chosen by Jesus to suffer for Jesus's name. I mean, he got blinded for 3 days. Like, that's not something that Paul put upon himself. And as a counter from all these free will people, they have free will as essentially an idol. Paul could have chosen to refuse Jesus and refuse the appointment to be the apostle to the Gentiles. To which I say, okay, so you believe that when Jesus says, Paul is a chosen instrument of mine to bear my name before the Gentiles and kings and the sons of Israel, I will show him how much he must suffer for my name. You think that Jesus's own words here could be falsified by Paul. Like, Jesus could have chosen him to do this and fulfill this purpose and for him to suffer for Jesus's name, but then Paul could have falsified Jesus's words here. Anyways, when we're dealing with non-believers, let's just stick to what God has spoken. Refute everything they say by the scriptures and not come up with this stuff about, oh, he doesn't do this because free will. God doesn't do that because free will. God values free will so much that he would let you, perish or something. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. That'll be all for today, though. Love you guys so much.